What is the scariest oh hell no experience you've had? Traveling one night after work to get to accommodation for my friend's wedding the next day. The drive took longer than expected, and soon I was in an area where there were no more street lamps and my GPS was not picking up my location. My cell phone had no reception, so I was guessing the direction. The road became a dirt road and lined with thick trees and shrubs. I hadn't seen another car for an hour. The road was narrow, and I was contemplating what would happen if a car was traveling in the opposite direction. Then a wombat bolted across the road in front of my car. I couldn't brake in time and hit him. Obviously shaken, I went to check if he was okay, but I was gripped with fear. I locked the doors and drove away. Found out later that was Belanglo State Forest. Not quite yeah nah mate, but how on earth did you do that? The way into Belanglo is from a rest stop off the Hume, unless you were heading to, like, Wombian Caves and took a wrong turn. And the way in from the Hume is quite clearly signposted once you leave the rest stop. Source spent a lot of time in NSW state forests over the last decade or so. Also I just noticed that you apparently hit a wombat and were worried about the wombat. Most people hit wombats and are worried about the fact that they've totaled their car. This will probably get buried in here, but I actually have a story that applies for once, so why not? Was on a school trip and we were staying in the upper room of a church. It had a little fire escape like staircase going down the back of the building which led to a clearing, surrounded by woods on all sides. One night we happened to open the door to see what looked like a phone flashlight in the woods, not moving. A friend and I decided to check it out. We climbed down the fire escape and carefully crossed the clearing because we didn't want any chaperones to know what we were doing. Right as we reached the edge of the forest, the light turned off and an identical light turned on deeper in the forest. I ran back for the fire escape with my friend right behind me faster than I had ever run in my life. If we had investigated that light further, we probably would have never been seen again. PFFT, you missed out on the Sword of Gryffindor. Nah, it was definitely the Will-o'-the-Wisps. I stepped into an elevator on the 8th floor of a hotel and hit the 10th floor button. Right before the doors closed, a group of at least 15 people jammed themselves in, while I'm standing in the back corner. The elevator was rated for 10 adults. Instead of going up, the elevator slowly started to go down. After half a floor, the elevator went into free fall for roughly 2 floors until the emergency cable caught. I thought I was going to die that day. 15 people cram into the elevator, the door closes, and you hear the voice behind you calmly say, "Before we get started, does anyone wanna get out?" Hulk would have taken the stairs. That story made my stomach drop. Elevators have a safety factor of 12 in most places, so if it says 10 people maximum, it won't break until at least 120 people. Perhaps it was a signaling error, or somewhere with more relaxed regulations. I've posted this before, but a number of years back my so was out of town on a business trip, so I ordered myself some dinner from a local restaurant chain. When the delivery guy arrived, he insisted, angrily, that he needed to come inside my apartment to deliver the food. This guy wasn't anything like the usual delivery people the restaurant sent out. He was scruffy and unkempt and rudely insistent. I'm normally a total pushover in the name of being polite, but something inside of me was screaming, so I refused to let him inside my place. He argued about it, but I wouldn't budge. He finally left in disgust. I slammed the door behind him and triple locked it, then spent the rest of the night eating pasta and being wholly creeped out by the whole thing. I hope you reported him to the restaurant. When I worked food delivery we had a strict never go in the house policy. That guy was definitely up to something. I was hunting rabbits with some friends and we started seeing blood spots in the snow. No big deal, right? Wrong. We had only gotten 2 rabbits, and we had both of them. After following the trail a mile we found 3 deer that were shredded, and some very large cat prints. Larger than a cougar, and we could only figure it had to have been 2 or 3 cougars caused the scratch marks, and we called it good for the day, and kept looking to make sure the cats weren't following us out. Never hunted that area again, or camp for that matter. No idea if it was a cougar, but those prints were way too big in my opinion. Depends on the country you were hunting in. The US doesn't have anything larger that's wild than mountain lions. United States, Midwest area we were pretty freaked out. There are some big cats in the Midwest woods recently. My mom had a boyfriend that was abusive, but my mom didn't pay much attention because of the fact that he smothers her with love. One day my mom got scared from him because of the bruises Thav made on us. We left the house and called our Shia Priscilla. She picked us up and my mom's boyfriend came and argued with her. I was watching them argue and he pulled out a gun from his car and my mom immediately went in and drove while he was ramming into our Shia's car. We drove on the sidewalk and he followed also. The car was right behind us and we were close to the police station. My mom waited till he left. He was found and arrested noticing bullet holes inside the house with anger. My mom went to our grandma's house until she can get one for us also. Shia means aunt by the way for y'all. I was in high school and it was late at night when my best friend and I decided to do a late night run to Walmart. I stopped to get gas. This was before paying at the pump was an option, so I took my cash inside. The cashier, a much older, gross dude, said some provocative things to me. It freaked me out so bad we got out of the parking lot in a hurry. I hit something on the way out, but hid it from my parents. Well, about a week later my dad saw the dent. When I told him what happened, he was livid. He grabbed his gun and went to the gas station. I was so scared. The guy wasn't there that day, to which he assured his boss was the luckiest day of that guy's life. I'm actually more scared of your dad running off with a gun like this. Let me set the scene. It's about 12:30-12:45ish full Monday night and I'm laying in bed about to go to sleep. I hear noise from downstairs and assume my sister just got home. I realize she was at a sleepover. I still give it the benefit of the doubt assuming I probably just decided to go home. So I'm laying in bed feeling pretty comfy till I hear 2 steps of feet. And if it was my sister I would have heard her go upstairs. So I start to get paranoid and sweat. They come to my floor and I act like I'm asleep. They come into my room and go into other rooms. So I expect to wake up the next day thinking we got robbed. Well, guess the look on my face when nothing was missing. I used to see things as a kid. My whole side of my family on my mother's side still does. I was taking a nap one time when I was around 4 years old. I had a dream of these demon-like things that were all black and all I could see were their sharp teeth. One was short, one medium height and one tall. They kept circling around me and laughing. I woke to my mom calling me down for dinner as it was now dark. I looked out the window before going downstairs, and I see 3 figures under the street light, but were all black, and couldn't see their features. One was short, one was medium height, and the other was tall. This was right in front of my house. A car accident in my early 20s. I was driving around a bend under a freeway on my last lesson, before going for my probationary license, when a car driving at least 70 km/h over the limit 160 km/h in a 90 km/h zone, about 100 miles per hour in a 55 zone smashed into my rear driver's side. The car I was driving spun out of control and smashed into an underpass. My teacher and I were both desperately lucky to be alive though we both sustained serious injuries. Well, did you get your probationary license? Hez not responding. I don't think he lived through the crash at all. When I was in elementary school I used to live in the apartments and frequently played outside with my friends. One day we were playing near the apartment walls which separated the apartment complex from the alleyways when I heard a deep male's voice say something like, "Hey, you come here," and it seemed like I was the only one that heard it out of my friends. I stopped dead in my tracks and stared at the wall and then decided to peek the other side. The bottom row of bricks had holes designed in them. Deadass saw a pair of worn out white sneakers pointing right at my direction and this triggered my fight or flight instincts and I ran home. Never went near that wall ever again. Occasionally go for night walks in my neighborhood. Neighborhood is in a mildly wooded area. Decided to walk down a street I hadn't been down before. The street led deeper into the wooded area of the neighborhood and was downhill ending in a cul-de-sac. Progressing down the street, and I was texting not paying much attention. Something told me to look up, and when I looked up, maybe 75 feet ahead of me, the 3 street lights at the end of the street slowly went out in sequence getting closer to me leaving the road shrouded in darkness. My nighttime walk turned into a nighttime jog home. While stationed in Afghanistan in early 2011, our unit had been hit pretty hard by improvised explosives. Needless to say, everybody's awareness was up. We rolled up on a residence, where arms were supposedly being stored. I was first man in, and immediately upon entering the building I felt a shift under my right leg, followed by a thud, and a feeling of tension beneath said foot. I stopped immediately, cleared the front of the building using line of sight. EOD was called. I had stepped on a nail and my weight had drove it back into the flooring. We all laughed. After my mentally unstable roommate left, I started hearing weird noises coming from my bathroom, and when I went to go check, I heard the closet doors on her side opening and slamming by themselves. There was also a really ominous feeling of get out now. So I booked it to the elevator. This was in a college dorm, and just sat in the lobby for a few hours before I went back in and slept on the couch in my living area. Over the next couple days I could hear the closets shifting, and once when I braved taking a shower I heard knocking from the inside. I checked and there was nothing there. Probably not as bad as the others in this thread, but I was 13 in a Panda Express. This big middle-aged man looked at me and never took his eyes off me. He was kinda smirking and seemed like he was thinking about something sinister. His eyes were fixated on me, and it was pretty obvious. It creeped me TF out. And the worst part was he had two little daughters just there while he was staring at me. Even though he probably wouldn't have done anything, it really scared my 13-year-old self. I made my mom take me home really quickly. Matched with a girl on Tinder. We hit it off pretty well, talking about music and things we do in our free time. We decided to grab some coffee. We met, photos checked out. About 15 minutes in, I ask her what high school she goes to. Oh, I don't go to high school. I'm in 7th grade elementary school. How old are you? 12, going to be 13 soon. I asked the waiter for my bill, paid and noped out of there so quick. I was 17 at the time, turning 18 in 2 weeks.